Redditors, this is a hard one to lay out, but I need to. I'm Elena, 30 now, and this isn't a story of triumph. It's the anatomy of how my own careless cruelty, disguised as a joke, nuked my life and cost me the only person who ever truly saw me, flaws and all. If you've ever uttered words so profoundly stupid they became the epitaph of a relationship, maybe you'll understand. Or maybe you'll just see me as the villain. Most days I do too. The original post asked for an aw if you've made a joke you couldn't take back. My life since that night feels like one long, silent, reverberating awe. David and I were never the stuff of sonnets or rom-coms. No grand sweeping gestures, no perfectly filtered Instagram couple goals. Our thing was quieter, woven from comfortable silences, shared sarcastic eye rolls, and the easy unspoken understanding that comes from genuine connection. He was my best friend, my person, the anchor in my often chaotic world. He'd seen me at my absolute worst, 3 a.m., mascara rivers carving paths down my blotchy face, sobbing over some fleeting idiot, and he'd just make tea, listen, and somehow make the world feel a little less tilted. He saw the raw, unedited Elena, and he stayed. For years, we existed in that frustrating, ill-defined limbo of, we're not labeling it. It was my doing, mostly. I told myself it was modern, cool, no pressure. The truth? I was a coward. I knew deep down in that place where uncomfortable truths reside that David wanted more. He never pressured, never demanded. It was in the lingering glances when he thought I wasn't looking, the quiet hope in his eyes when our hands brushed, the way he'd remember tiny details I'd forgotten I'd even shared. He wanted clarity, commitment. He wanted us, officially, but I kept him at bay, deliberately. I liked the safety net, the ego-stroking knowledge that he'd always be there, my loyal David, even when I was off chasing shinier, more transient attractions. It sounds monstrous, I know. I did care for him immensely, more than I allowed myself to admit. But I treated his steadfast presence like a guarantee, a utility, not the precious gift it was. We had all the trappings of a couple, daily talks that spanned hours, sleepovers that felt like home, cooking dinners together in his small kitchen, a dance of comfortable domesticity. But if anyone asked, "Oh, David," I'd say with a breezy laugh, especially if he was near. He's my comfort guy, my bestie, like a human security blanket, you know? I made it sound sweet, harmless. It was selfish. It was cruel. The night the bomb dropped was an ordinary Friday. We were at my friend Lily's apartment, Lily with her vibrant energy and knack for making any gathering feel like an event. The air was a familiar mix of cheap wine, craft beer, and the lingering scent of her famous 7-layered dip. Laughter bounced, a happy, boisterous sound. We were playing Truth or Drink, that classic catalyst for lowered inhibitions and regrettable revelations. The empty beer can spun, its mouth landing squarely on me. Mark, Lily's then-boyfriend, grinned, a glint in his eye. "All right, Elena, truth. If you absolutely had to pick someone in this room to marry tomorrow, no questions asked, who would it be?" A hush fell. Eyes flicked from me to David, who was perched on the arm of the sofa, nursing his beer. A small, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. He looked relaxed, at ease. My David. The wine had made me bold, reckless. I remember the slightly metallic taste on my tongue, the music thumping a little too loudly. I smirked, catching David's eye for a split second. "Oh, please," I scoffed, adding a theatrical eye roll. "David, obviously. He's the backup plan, right? If I'm still single and pathetically desperate at 35, he's my guy." I laughed, a sharp, bright sound that felt incredibly witty in my muddled brain. The room erupted. Lily, Mark, Sarah, Tom, they all howled. Harmless banter, except it wasn't. David didn't laugh. His faint smile didn't just vanish, it was wiped clean, replaced by a sudden, profound stillness that seemed to suck the air out of my immediate vicinity. He just nodded, a tiny, almost imperceptible dip of his chin. Quietly. His eyes, usually so warm, so full of understanding when they met mine, seemed to film over, becoming distant, unreadable. Then, as if by sheer force of will, he manufactured a smile. It was polite, tight-lipped, a mere muscular contraction that didn't come within a country mile of his eyes. The, "you just gutted me, but I'll bleed out quietly" smile. He took a slow sip of his beer, his gaze dropping to the bottle. The laughter continued around us, but a shard of ice had just lodged itself in my chest. That was the moment the world shifted. The moment I lost him. I just didn't know it yet. The next morning, the usual cadence of my life with David was jarringly silent. No, morning sunshine, coffee's brewing, if you ever deign to join the living text, his standard Saturday opener, no silly meme, just nothing. My head throbbed. I squinted at my phone, an unfamiliar anxiety knotting in my stomach. Sleeping in, I mumbled, dismissing the unease. But the silence stretched, taut and unnerving. A day, then two. The constant stream of communication that had been the background music to my life had flatlined. By the end of the week, the silence wasn't just absence. It was a screaming void. David, who would drop anything for me, was gone. I called. Voicemail. "Hey, it's David. Leave a message or don't. You do you." His cheerful recorded voice was a cruel mockery. I messaged, "Hey, you okay? Haven't heard from you." Read. No reply. Frantic now. "David, seriously, what's going on? Did I do something?" Read. No reply. "Please, just talk to me." Delivered. Unread. Then, hours later, read. Still, deafening silence. It was brutal. He'd never, ever ignored me. About 10 days into this agonizing radio silence, Lily called. She'd been at the party, heard the joke. "He seemed a bit off after your backup plan comment," she said, her voice tinged with concern. "He got really quiet." "Off?" I nearly sobbed. "Lily, he's vanished. It's like I don't exist." A pause. "Wow, that's intense, even for him being upset." Then, almost as an afterthought, "You know, he told me something once, ages ago, about his mom." My breath caught. David rarely spoke of his mother. She'd died of cancer when he was in college, a raw, guarded wound. "What about her?" "She made him promise something," Lily continued, her voice softer. "Or maybe it was more like a vow he made to himself after she passed. She always worried he'd let people take him for granted, that he'd settle because he's such a good, kind soul. She wanted him to wait, to be absolutely sure the person he committed to truly valued him, for who he was, not just because he was convenient or available." Lily kept talking, but her words blurred into a dull roar. She wanted him to be sure that person valued him, not just because he was available. Backup plan. Comfort guy. Always be there waiting. My own flippant, cruel words slammed into me with the force of a physical blow. It wasn't just a bad joke he was reacting to. I had, in one breathtakingly arrogant moment, confirmed his deepest fear, the very scenario his dying mother had warned him against. I'd shown him in front of everyone that I saw him as exactly that. Available, convenient, a fallback. Not a cherished priority. Not the one. The silence wasn't just him being angry. It was a decision. A profound, deeply rooted choice based on a promise to the most important woman in his life. A vow to protect his own heart from people who would treat it carelessly. People like me. I hadn't just hurt his feelings. I'd confirmed his worst fears about how I saw him, and in doing so, I'd shown him I wasn't the one he could ever trust with his heart, not in the way his mother had hoped for him. He hadn't just walked away from a joke. He was honoring a sacred commitment. The cold dread in my gut was the chilling realization of the true magnitude of my mistake. The weeks that followed were a haze of frantic energy and crushing despair. I replayed that Friday night, my words, his quiet nod, that tight-lipped smile over and over. My apartment, once a sanctuary, felt like a mausoleum filled with his absence. Sleep was a battlefield. When I did drift off, I'd dream of his warm eyes, only to wake to the cold slap of reality. Then, the cafe. About 2 weeks after the party, I was forcing normalcy, huddled over a latte, when the bell above the door jingled. I glanced up. David. My heart leaped, then plummeted. He looked different, calmer. And he wasn't alone. A woman was with him. Pretty, dark, wavy hair, a kind smile as she laughed at something he said, her hand resting lightly on his arm. They looked connected, not just friends. An easy intimacy radiated from them. He saw me. No surprise in his eyes. Just quiet acknowledgement, a flicker of something unreadable, then that unnerving calm. I felt nailed to my chair. I had to say something. My legs felt like lead as I approached. "David," I managed, my voice a thready whisper. He nodded. "Elena." His voice was even, devoid of its usual warmth for me. "This is Mia," he said, gesturing to her. "Mia, this is Elena, an old friend." An old friend. The words were a fresh stab. Mia smiled politely. "Nice to meet you." No explanation for his silence, no apology. He didn't owe me one. The air was thick with unspoken history. I mumbled a "you too," feeling like an intruder. The brief, stilted conversation, me asking how he was, him saying he was good, really good, was excruciating. He wasn't suffering. He was moving on. I fled, their comfortable image seared into my brain. That night, desperate, I messaged him, David, can we please talk? I need to understand. His reply was swift, brutal. Elena, there's not much to say. You made it very clear where I stood in your life. I just finally believed you. I just finally believed you. I stared at the screen, tears blurring the words. He was right. My backup plan comment was just the final ugly confirmation of years of taking him for granted. He was never just a backup. He was my foundation, my home, and I'd treated him like a spare part. Now he was gone, and someone else was seeing his worth. The weight of my arrogance was a physical burden. He hadn't just believed my joke, he'd believed years of my actions. In the bleak aftermath, I leaned heavily on Lily. She'd been my confidant for years, the repository of all my romantic woes, often, rightly, calling me out. She knew about the backup plan disaster and had been sympathetic about David's extreme reaction, even sharing the detail about his mother's wish. One miserable Tuesday, about a month after the cafe incident, I was at her place, drowning my sorrows in wine and pizza. I just don't get how he could move on so fast, Lil, I slurred. Mia, it's like I was nothing. Years, Lily. And he just flips a switch? Lily was quiet, tracing the rim of her wine glass, avoiding my eyes. People cope differently, Elle. Maybe he was ready for something real for a long time, and you weren't. Easy for you, I mumbled. She sighed, finally looking up, her gaze troubled. Elena, there's something I should have told you. A cold dread prickled my skin. What is it, Lily? She walked to her window, back to me, nervously twirling a strand of hair. It's about David. Her voice was small. Remember that period about 2 years ago? When you were obsessed with Julian, the artist? I nodded. Julian, a 6-month whirlwind. I'd been distracted. I'd assumed David was just there. Well, Lily continued, her voice a whisper, during that time, when you and David weren't really official, and you were so wrapped up. She paused. What, Lily? Spit it out. She turned, pale, eyes filled with guilt. David and I, we kind of had a thing. The words hung there. A thing? I repeated, mind reeling. What kind of thing? Her eyes darted away. We went on a few dates. It got a bit more serious for a little while. We slept together a few times. The room tilted. Lily, my best friend, and David. My David? My voice trembled. You and David? While I was... And you never told me? The pizza churned in my stomach. It wasn't like that, Elena, she said quickly, voice shaking. You were barely speaking to him. He was lonely. I was lonely. It just happened. We both knew it wasn't going anywhere. He was still so hung up on you. It ended quickly, amicably. We agreed not to say anything, not to complicate things. Not to complicate things? I stood, unsteady. The betrayal was a searing knife. You slept with the man who was my best friend, and you decided it was better not to tell me? For 2 years you've listened to me cry about him, and you never said a word? Tears welled in her eyes. Elena, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. I was going to tell you so many times. After he left, I couldn't. You were already hurting. So you let me believe his vow to his mother was the only other factor? Cold rage built. You didn't think to mention that maybe he was also tired of being caught between 2 women who supposedly cared about him but were both, in our own ways, screwing him over? Lily flinched. He told me, even then, that you were the one. He was just sad, Elle, and I was there. It was wrong. I'm so sorry. Oh, so... The pain was multifaceted. David, my carelessness, and now Lily's secret. My trust in her shattered. I had pushed David away, and Lily had, however briefly, stepped into that void. The secrecy, years of it, felt like a fresh betrayal layered on top of my loss of David. I have to go, I choked out, grabbing my bag. Elena, please, she pleaded, but I fled. I wasn't just mourning David, I was mourning a friendship, confronting the ugly truth that my actions had far-reaching, toxic consequences. My backup plan mentality hadn't just cost me David, it had poisoned everything. The rift with Lily was devastating, the kind of devastation that makes you question everything you thought you knew about the people closest to you. One moment, we were inseparable, sharing secrets, laughing until we couldn't breathe. The next, it was like a wall had slammed down between us. The silence wasn't just loud, it was suffocating. And there, in the midst of that silence, was the painful truth of it all. Lily had known, and she hadn't told me. Why didn't you tell me? I asked her once, after weeks of barely speaking. My voice cracked in a way I didn't recognize, and I couldn't meet her eyes. She just shrugged, a nervous tick playing with her hair. I didn't think it was my place, she said, though I could hear the unease in her voice, and I didn't think you'd care. The words stung, more than they should have, because part of me didn't care, at least not enough. I thought David would always be there. That was my biggest mistake. I'd used him as a backup, and in the process, I'd treated him like he was disposable, like his love didn't matter as much as it actually did. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I couldn't, because deep down, I knew she was right. It was my fault. I was the one who let him slip through my fingers, and now she was the one who had to carry the weight of a secret that broke us both. Months passed, weeks filled with regret, sleepless nights, endless scrolling through old photos of David and me, and our conversations that seemed so light, so carefree back then. I kept telling myself, maybe this is just a phase. Maybe he'll come back. But I knew better. I could feel it in my bones. The ship had sailed. Then one day, Lily called. It was the first time she'd reached out to me since we'd fallen apart. Her voice was hesitant, unsure, and I braced myself. Elena, she said, her voice tight with something I couldn't quite place. David and Mia, they've moved in together. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt the breath leave my lungs. Not a surprise, but somehow hearing it out loud made it real. It made it official. David, the one I'd pushed away, the one I had ignored, was building a life with someone else. And in that moment, I wasn't angry, I wasn't jealous, no. It was something worse. It was the stark, brutal realization that I could have been that person. I could have been the one there with him. The one who woke up next to him every morning. The one who helped him build his life, not as a backup, but as the one. But instead, I had kept him at arm's length, never letting him get too close, too real. I'd always had an excuse. Always. I didn't want to admit it at the time, but the truth was I was terrified. Terrified of losing myself in him, of being vulnerable, of needing someone. So I pushed him away, and now he was gone. I thought we had time, I whispered, more to myself than to Lily, though she was still on the other end of the line. I thought I could fix it later, but now it's too late. You can't fix this one, Elena, she said softly. It's over. The finality of her words hit me like a ton of bricks. It was over. I had let it slip away, and now David had chosen someone else, someone who had been brave enough to make the commitment I never could. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, walking aimlessly through the streets, letting my mind race through the past, through all the chances I'd thrown away. How many times had David stood by me when I was too afraid to let myself fall for him? How many nights had he sat with me, comforting me when I was a mess, always patient, always understanding? And all I had done was keep him on the sidelines, always just friends, always the backup plan. And now he was gone. I could feel my chest tightening with every step, but no tears came. They had been used up already, months ago, when I first realized what I'd done. Now I just had a hollow ache in my chest. The silence of losing him was unbearable, worse than the grief, worse than the regret. That night, I sat on my bed, the same bed I'd shared with my thoughts for so long, and I thought about everything. I thought about how I'd treated him, how I'd let fear dictate my actions, and how now my biggest fear was staring me in the face. He was gone, and it was my fault. I didn't want to win him back. That ship had long since sailed. But I needed to apologize. Not to fix it, not to get him back, but because I owed him that. I owed him the truth about how much he had meant to me, how much he still meant to me, even if I couldn't have him. He deserved to hear that from me, not as some last-ditch effort to salvage a relationship, but because he deserved to know that I'd finally seen him for who he truly was. So I typed out the message. My fingers trembled over the keys, but I didn't stop. I had to do this. For him. For me. I'm sorry, David. I never meant to make you feel like second best. You were never a backup. You were everything. I hope you find the peace I couldn't give you. I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity, wondering if I was wasting my time. But then his reply came. I needed to hear that. Thank you. But I'm in a good place now. I hope you find peace too. And that was it. No lingering, maybe someday, no hope left. Just peace. For him, at least. I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling the weight of his words settle over me. It wasn't closure, not really, but it was the closest I was going to get. And I was left with the painful truth that sometimes, no matter how much you regret it, some things just can't be fixed. Some ships sink, and no matter how much you wish you could rewind time, you can't. The tears finally came, slow and quiet, not for what I had lost, but for what I had never fully understood until it was too late. And I realized then, as the tears blurred my vision, that some lessons come with a price. It was a gray, drizzly Sunday. I stood by my window, rain streaking the glass, blurring the city into a melancholic watercolor. My laptop was open, a blank message window accusing me. What could I say to encapsulate years of regret? Finally, I typed, raw and unfiltered, "David," I began, my reflection ghostly on the screen. "I don't expect a reply. I'm not trying to change anything. I know it's far too late. I need to say I'm sorry, truly, profoundly sorry for that night, that horrible joke, but more, for all the years before, for treating you like a fixture I could always fall back on, for refusing to see how much you offered and how little I gave. You were never, ever, just the backup plan. That was a shield from my own fear. In reality, you were the steadiest, kindest part of my life. My best friend, my confidant. You were home, and I treated you like a placeholder. I was selfish, a coward. I understand now the depth of the hurt, especially knowing about your mom. I desecrated that. I don't deserve forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I see you. You were never second best. In my heart, even when I was too stupid to admit it, you were everything." My finger trembled as I hit send. A wave of relief and dread washed over me. I closed the laptop. Hours passed. The rain drummed on. Then my phone lit up. His name. My heart hammered. It was short. "Elena," it read. "I needed to hear that. Thank you. But I'm in a good place now. I'm happy. I hope you find peace too." That was it. I needed to hear that. Thank you. Acknowledgement, maybe absolution. But then, "I'm in a good place now. I'm happy. I hope you find peace too. Kind, gentle. But a door, firmly, irrevocably closed. No bitterness, just finality." The simple thank you, and "I'm at peace," felt like a gentle hand pushing me away, not with malice, but with the quiet certainty of someone who had truly moved on. The weight had lifted from him. He had found his peace with Mia. It was too late for me. No, maybe someday. Just peace for him, silence for me. The finality was crushing. Tears streamed down my face, tears of grief, but also of bitter, hard-won acceptance. He was happy. That's all I should have wanted. And he'd found it, no thanks to me. So, that's my story. David and Mia married about a year later. Lily told me. She was invited, I wasn't. Rightly so. I saw a picture once accidentally. He looked radiant. Mia looked at him like he was her world. I felt a pang, not of jealousy, but of profound regret and a genuine wish for his happiness. My friendship with Lily healed, scarred. We don't talk about David. I'm 30. I've dated. I've learned. But I'll always carry the weight of David, the backup plan, who was never a backup. He was the love of my life, and I was too blind, too immature to see it until he was gone. Redditors, if you have someone who shows up, who makes you laugh, feel safe, feel seen, don't be an Elena. Don't call them your backup. Don't make them a joke. Because one day they might stop laughing. They might finally believe you, and they won't come back. They'll find their peace with someone who sees their worth from the start. And you'll be left with silence, regret, and the gut-wrenching knowledge that your safety net was the one you should have held onto for dear life. Ever realize too late that the backup was the love of your life? Let's talk. Sometimes sharing the wreckage is the first step.